Oh, okay, great. Here we go.
I toggle back and forth between feeling like, what is this like weird pathology that we all think we have something to share? Like, how dare I? To, oh my God, I'm actually William Shakespeare.
You are.
To then it's like, why am I an alcoholic? Like, was I so drunk that I thought I should possibly put myself out in public like that? Who do I think I am? The highs and lows are really thrilling.
They're really real. She's referring to her ASMR YouTube channel. You know this because you're obsessed with this.
I love it.
It is so good. I actually think like part of the good. So my only note is you are riveting. You are a very good storyteller. So I'm like awake and my eyeballs are so happy to look at your face. Like there's one where you're like, oh, the IVF one, you're like doing this and I'm like, oh. Or like there's a one where I don't know. I actually didn't know that these are sensations that I'm interested in, but like you're like, oh, this is triggering for you. I'm going to like dance my fingers which was very like a little bit clitoral stimulation. Did that feel like that?
So if anyone's listening who doesn't have any idea what we're talking about, I make ASMR videos on YouTube as of like 5 minutes ago. No, a couple months ago I started doing this because
it was 4 months.
Wow, jeez. So
you've compiled all of that content in just 4 months?
Yeah, she's very prolific. Listen, this is, you know, that feeling she was talking about, that sensation like, whoa, I have so much to contribute. It's real. She has so much to contribute.
Yeah, that's a beautiful body of work for 4 months.
That's very kind. I just feel like what we're describing is so niche that some people may have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about.
Context.
But, okay, so ASMR is this basically totally pseudoscience phenomenon of relaxation that feels like it feels like tingling in your spine. And for me, it's been very helpful because I suffer from insomnia, and the things that trigger it are just like very unusual to the uninitiated person. And those are certain sounds, like sounds from a person's mouth or crunching or tapping, certain visual cues that I don't personally have, but often have to do with like fades of light or hand movement.
It looked like you were fingering the camera lens, and I had never seen something so beautiful.
I think it's a visual connotation of personal attention. I think this is all like about feeling seen. I think these are all the sensory cues associated with feeling seen. And sometimes that's just feeling seen because a person has close proximity to you. In any event, there's this whole community of people on YouTube who are making these things, who are called ASMR artists, who simulate these triggers so that people can relax and fall asleep. But I decided to throw my hat in the ring a couple of months ago because I've been listening to them for like 7 years in the shadows. And it's so weird and has so little, I mean, in the like niche world of people who know about it, it's kind of like indie and hip and cool. But like it's otherwise so fucking weird. And like just imagine my boyfriend's Persian family like finding out that I make these weird...
Do they know?
Of course not. I don't think they've even...
Thank God.
No.
They don't need to know.
They don't need to, and they don't need to know.
I mean, they don't want to know, if we're being honest.
They don't want to know.
I know, and I'm very excited about it. I think like part of the reason why it's so soothing to me is because, yes, I feel seen, but there's something delicious about another person letting you see them. Whew.
Oh, yeah, I think that's what got me into it. I think, so for me, it was like, and gosh, I don't know that this has anything to do with Mom Curious, so
we'll get there.
But for me, I think it was this feeling of gratitude to these women who were mostly like in their late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, to sort of share their life as a text that I could continue to return to, like some of my favorite reality TV characters or something, with these like very humble, vulnerable, granular details from their lives, like these protagonists that I would come back to every time they would drop a video. It was like really the modern day novel that like I never wanted to put down. And then people would like grow up and stop making videos or just like go out of, there'd be people who would make videos a ton for a spurt and then they'd disappear for a year. And I'd be like, oh, I miss Rachel, that second grade teacher who lives in Connecticut and she's 21, but now she's 25 and she doesn't want to do this. Anyway, so I thought, I'm going to do it.
Well, I have that feeling with Instagram people. Like, I'm so invested. I love them. I just love them. I'm so grateful.
Who do you love?
At this point, who do I love? Actually, someone that's coming in today is Ariel Steen. She actually doesn't share so much of her personal life, but I would like her to. She's like a Jewish mommy blogger. She's like the Glennon of the Jews. Oh my God. But like before Glennon got like really, before like, the simpler times of Glennon Doyle where she was just like Glennon Doyle Malton. She was a Christian mommy blogger. And anyway, I enjoy her joy so much. It really is very, it's like as much as I like get down on social media and YouTube and even like reality TV, like you say, like it's very soothing to be allowed into your experience, and your experience is like quite glamorous on some level, which you're like, as you say, like you toggle back and forth to how much do I share and how much do I not share, and like I'm aware of how lucky I am and how hard it's like you really open that dialogue up in a way that we don't see celebrities or actresses of your caliber really allow us in.
Well, that's because I'm ruining it. That's because by like putting an iPhone 10 with a crack in the lens 3 inches from my face in my filthy apartment or in front of like a fake fucking Christmas tree, I'm ruining it. Like the more you show people, it not for nothing that like, very, very fancy celebrities are not on Instagram because like
they're afraid. Well, you've also worked more than most people I know in this time, right? You have a series coming out.
I have a new show called The After Party coming to Apple Plus in January 28th.
Okay, and you did Robot Chicken, which I think is very cool.
That's so funny. I do some weird voices for them.
You're very good at animation. Like you've sent me she sends me her voiceover auditions because I do voiceovers like for commercials, and I'm like, girl, I got no notes. You are fucking brilliant. On her iPhone, legit on her iPhone.
Daniella doesn't know that once my agent told me that it's harder to star in a leading role opposite Brad Pitt than it is to book a voiceover in this town. And Daniella has made a living off of voiceovers, which brings me to my next point, which is that I'm so amazed that like your talent and your purpose are meeting in this podcast, because it's this ASMR quality of like, this is the work you were born to do, and your voice sounds so good.
Thanks.
So the message and the packaging are really top notch.
Well, I appreciate that, and I give it up to Laura Lucetti for seeing that.
Seeing it, not having a very Long Island unappealing voice on a microphone, though.
But here's the thing: you have been on the other end of my motherhood journey. I mean, we've been on a lot of journeys together.
Drugs.
That. But what's always really amazing to me is like we communicate a lot on Marco Polo, which is like this video app. You know it?
I know it. Tell our listeners about it, because I don't know that everybody knows what it is.
I really should be paid to represent the Marco Polo app. It's so much more than it sounds. But basically, it is an app in which you send video messages back and forth to one another without like having to store that kind of data on your phone. And it sounds like nothing, right? Like, why would that be interesting? And what in fact it becomes is a way to experience total intimacy and total control, which is the dream, because you can talk without being interrupted, without seeing the reaction of the person you're talking to, but maybe imagining it in your head. You can listen without being watched. So you can listen also in your own time, on your own time. But if both of you are there, you go back and forth. You can play it in double time if it's a slow talker. You can really take in intimacy when it's good for you. It's so rich to the point of potentially fully replacing whole relationships.
I mean,
not ours, thank God.
It's been a great supplement for us. But I have sent you like just, oof. My motherhood journey is on our Marco Polo app, and it's not always pretty. And somehow you're still like, I could do this. I want to do this.
Oh
it's
my
really
gosh.
interesting to me, actually, that you're like, oh, I see you grappling with your psyche and your programming and your rage and your logistics. And I'm into it. Let's do this.
It's so interesting because it's like all of so to the listener, I don't have any children yet. I have frozen eggs and, a lot of agnosticism and potentially some hope. But I have
You also have a dog.
I also have a
I don't want to
dog.
minimize that piece because being a dog mom is I thought that was really real for me with Bernardo. Growing my family with Dan, having a dog together felt very real.
It is real, but also it's sort of a testimony to the fact that you are a really good person, because it is 100% possible to be a bad dog parent and not care that you're a bad dog parent.
Totally.
Like, people can do that. But what I want to say about Daniella is that, like, okay, first of all of human civilization is probably not wrong when they say that having children is like one of the greatest things you can possibly do. But I think also, like, all of civilization didn't have these platforms of like Instagram and like, so we're suddenly given this, like, I don't know, both like real insight to the unique pain of it. Just
Orgasm joy.
Sometimes the most profound wisdom appears to come from the people who are like nailing it and doing it the best. And then it really requires this deep breath of like, no, we get there because we were the people in the most pain to begin with, who had to do the most learning. So to anyone who's doing compare and despair with Daniella, she is like, I have learned everything about the children I don't have from Daniella, and I have a lot of parents and sisters friends and sisters who are parents. But also, like, the humility is she really worked for everything that she knows. It comes from, it's the sand that makes the pearl. Think about that a lot. Like, your genius is hard won.
Oh, it is hard won. It is hard won. The fact that you can like recognize that is so special. We lived through a screen on this Marco Polo app, me and Genevieve, and somehow I still managed to be like, this is so hard for me. It is so worthwhile. Like I would say that in my messages, like, this is so worthwhile, and
Yeah, most parents don't want to
the
give
pandemic.
them back. It's like so interesting.
Don't want to give them back.
Yeah, parents are miserable and they don't want to give them back. My sister has one of the best phrases about it, which is, all joy, no fun.
Yeah. Your sister's really good at what she said. She mentioned something else about you get to parent in a way that you need it to be parented.
Right. So I was bringing up to my sister about some family friends of ours. I was like, this is so horrifying, because we were seeing in this teenage boy a lot of the neuroses of the father who has manic depression. And it was like I was like, oh my God, I can't imagine that feeling of like, I passed on these traits to this child, and this child is suffering because I downloaded my crap. And she said, yes, and it's not just you projecting all of your own pain onto them, it's also you being able to be the parent to them you didn't have. So.
I actually have an interesting question, which is really a question for Daniella about your relationship. I think this is a beautiful one to you. How can a non-mom be super supportive to our mom friends? Because sometimes that's something that I know I've struggled with, the mom curious crowd has struggled with, and am I saying the right thing? Am I doing, and I know those fears are.
Oh my God. She's laughing.
I'm laughing because
it's so hard.
It's really hard. It's also cosmic, I think. It's also like Daniella and my relationship is divine and divinely intended, and I have said the wrong thing a lot.
As have I.
Like it happens a lot, and I think there are either the relationships that you're like your higher mind is like, I must have this, or I don't need it, and like if you must have it, you just will repair, and like
We could do it.
we could do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. I have to think about it. Okay, so one thing that I think is like for me, and tell me if you receive this as helpful or not. I don't invite Daniella to my house. It's just like I know that she has a full-time job, and so I just go to her house.
Oh my gosh, and she hangs out with my kids and my dog. And like it's ecstasy.
But I just know like if all I can kind of offer is like the helpful time of like not traveling to me, like I can do that even if the kids aren't there. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's like actually helpful or if that's just like a silent decision I've made.
No, you made that decision and I clocked it, and I really, really appreciate it, because there are some times where I'm like, I want so badly. All I want to do is hang out with you.
Oh yeah. No, but I know.
That's literally all I want to do. I'm on this fucking box, like, here's the details of my life, and but I want to be in the flesh with you, and sometimes it's hard to get there, and I really appreciate that. I mean, some people have more childcare than I do, and so they might have more time for that journey to the Upper East Side or wherever, but you noticed that I don't have that time, and you made you took it upon yourself to come over.
It's also like we share so many of the same mental illnesses, like insomnia really primarily, and I just feel like that, you just gotta, okay, so here's the thing. Here's the gauntlet that got dropped. Don't know what that phrase means. The whole thing is really humbling.
We don't have to do it.
No, we're gonna do it.
Okay.
I was experimenting with mushrooms as a way of handling insomnia, anxiety, and depression.
Have you seen Fantastic Fungi?
No, but I'm excited too.
Oh, it's amazing.
You said Ness is watching it?
Ness watched a little bit, and he was asking,
beautiful.
What were they talking about magic mushrooms? And I was like, well, I actually pointed him to Alice in Wonderland, because there's a whole scene about magic mushrooms there. And I just said that mushrooms are magical, that they're healing, and that they're delicious. I didn't tell him that they're psychedelic, but he'll find out pretty soon. Soon enough.
No, we've been so conditioned to like associate psychedelics with like tripping balls and being on acid at Woodstock, and it's just like, it's sort of the like equating drinking a handle of whiskey with having a glass of wine, which is like how most people interact with alcohol, but like with drugs somehow it's different. Anyway,
actually, can I just interject and just say, like, back to that last question, one of the things that Genevieve does is she doesn't give up on me. She doesn't give up on my artistry. She doesn't give up on my spiritual journey. She doesn't give up. And like, I do think that it's not worth it. Like, it's worth it to you not to give up. But I think a lot of non-mom friends are just like, oh, they're doing something else. And it's not an offensive, I throw my hands up and I walk away from you. But it takes so much more to be with someone who has 2 children, a dog, a husband, and like a whole house to run than it does like, a free-spirited friend who you're doing drugs with and magic mushrooms with, like, or
you give a lot in spite of all of that.
I
and
really
by the way,
appreciate
like,
that.
I don't know how
But,
many. Yeah.
No, but I think that and you have you experienced it where I've given up on friends? Like, I'm like, oh, they're moms now. They're not interesting anymore. They're not doing the same thing I'm doing, and so I'm just gonna not
But
engage with
maybe
them.
they're actually not interesting. You are very interesting. Is that terrible to say? Have I experienced that? I think it's not about evaluating the mom as not being interesting. It's like, my needs are no longer important in the landscape of this person and the new needs that they have to meet. And so I'm going to take myself out of the equation so that I don't get hurt and I'm not vulnerable to like needing more than my friend can give me. It feels more to me like hygienic and respectful than it does an evaluation of the friend. I'm just like, oh, I'm too much for you now because I am like Genevieve, single woman without child.
No, you're not.
You know?
No, you're
No,
perfect.
it's
Actually, like the more you are to me. It warms me like your sun rays really do warm me.
Well, what I'm hearing is you say that, and thank you so much. I'm not going to chime in with the self-deprecating, but thank you. And what I'm hearing is that moms, even though they have these other souls that are completely dependent on them for their everything, adults really need adults.
Yeah.
Like it really does take a village to raise these kids, not because you necessarily need more adults on the kids, but because the adults really need adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just really feel for that kind of complete pie chart of the mental health of the mom and like how undernourished historically I can imagine moms have been.
Maybe not back in the day when
Maybe
like we're
not
just
back,
like
but we went
bleeding
through a
all
dark-
together.
Right. Yeah, we went through a dark stage there.
We did, and I think partially, this is like a working hypothesis, but like I think feminism has done a great thing for us in so many ways, and I know that you are so deeply feminist, and I just a shout out to Good Girls Revolt, like beautiful feminist work. But I think in owning more space in the world, we've also inched ourselves away from each other. And I'm hoping that like we can toggle, we can come back to deep, loving relationships with women.
It's so interesting because I feel like tell me you're an extrovert without telling me you're an extrovert. Daniella's been in a pandemic for 2 years, and she really does feel regenerated by other human beings. Like the way that this woman reacts to total strangers on the street. You're not an introvert. You're not.
No, I love a stranger.
I think most people on your podcast, I don't know. I feel like I am not a mom, and I want to share what I think would probably be helpful. A really salient thing that I have to share, which is just that very granular experience of freezing my eggs.
Oh, yes.
We're going to get into that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, we could go back to the event after.
Oh, the event.
we could do either.
Here, I'll do this.
Okay, go for it. Whatever. You know what? Take it away.
This is a learning experience. I hope for the listener, this is service. So I was experimenting with mushrooms and enjoyed that. And one day was sitting on an airplane, and I'd taken quite a few, maybe half a gram. Just for the listener who is uninitiated, 3.5 grams of mushrooms is what's called a hero's dose. That's when you are experiencing something called ego death, like you become part of the oneness, full psychedelic visual effect, like it's a really overwhelming hallucinatory experience. A lot of stuff up to there is just giggly and fun, and nothing like the reputation of mushrooms. In any event, you feel a little drunk maybe. So I felt a little drunk. And it doesn't really matter what the intention was, but what I was trying to do is send Daniella a text that said, I love you so much. And what I did instead was tell her that I'd had a dream the night before that Ness died.
Yeah, it was bad. Even just like saying it out loud makes me want to cry.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
And I just said, I said, I had this dream. It's so crazy. I feel so close to you. I love you so much. Daniella was immediately like, I need to take a pause. Like I had said this thing that set off a very painful reaction in her. And I was like, oh my God. And I read what I said and I did the thing where I had like empathy for another human being instead of being drunk. And I put myself in her position and I like sobered up right out of it. And then I think we just both really went into our shadow and went into like as much protecting as we could possibly do from the kind of like bomb that went off. And we didn't talk for a year.
Yeah. A year. I don't even remember how we got back together, but I was pregnant at the time. And the truth is that because we're so close, you know, I was saying that like I was having a really hard time not just having that one-on-one experience with Ness. And I couldn't hear even a metaphor of like his babyhood going away. It was so, it came from insight. It came from love. And it was, I can see that now, having healed that and accepted that, you know, like life, I can't protect my kid from life. And that is a really hard pill to swallow, actually. So I don't know how do we resolve?
I don't remember, but I do remember, I mean, feeling so much shame that I had sent this text, then feeling so much anger that it felt like the ouch was way bigger than the pinch, because I was like, we're in the silent treatment for a year now over this text. And I kept seeing these construction signs all around that said Daniella.
Do you see those around
the like orange and white signs around the city? And it was literally like she was everywhere. And this was like my best friend. And it was funny because at the time I remember talking about it with some of my mom friends, and I was like, this happened. And everyone's reaction was, oh God. And it was just this blind spot. It was just this thing that like this little hole in my compassion that might seem super, super obvious, but like, obviously I didn't mean to hurt.
Yeah.
It's never anyone's intention, but like, it's just one of those like humbling holes in my consciousness that until I put my foot right in it and saw the hurt that it caused, I just didn't, there was really no way to learn that lesson except for learning it. And I wish that it hadn't happened, but I do think that like there's something about a relationship that repairs.
Yeah.
That is really, it's like you get stripes.
You
know,
there's this like concept in Judaism where like teshuvah, which means like to return. I remember, you know, like I don't like a lot of the things I learned in Hebrew school, but one of the things is like a relationship is like a string, and when you cut it and then tie it back up to be a string again, it may have a knot, but it's closer. The two ends are closer than it was before. And I do feel like that.
oh,
Also, because like you said, the fact that it was worth it, the worthiness of the string, you know, knot and all, is so apparent when you repair.
do you think that I'm gonna get like a lot of hate mail about, guys, I was high.
Oh no. Yeah.
Like I don't think I was right
No.
by any means.
I actually think you're, as you said, it's such a service. Like, who would know that would sting? Like,
Some people might know. I just really, really, okay. I just have to say this, and then I'll drop it. I was really in the like Technicolor deep feeling of love, and I just thought it's not possible that a fucking dream that never happened, that I had a dream that like that would piss her off so much.
Well, listen, I'm over it, and like it's so over. But recently I did have a journey on mushrooms, and Genevieve came to me and like, that love, oh my God, it is so intense, and like it doesn't translate. So like I like remember like Marco Poloing and being like, but like, oh, and I told you all about my journey, and like the words just like don't actually do it enough justice.
Right. Definitely,
So, like-
definitely not. I mean, this is also should just be a lesson that nobody should talk about their dreams ever because it's boring. At
is
very
a great
best,
lesson.
at the very best, it's boring. At the worst, you could lose friends.
No, or whatever. We didn't lose a year with a friend. It's been a solid
Hey.
8. We're doing okay.
We're doing okay.
Hey, I've done it. I was, kind of not paying attention. I was a little stoned, and a good friend of mine lost her mother, and it was her birthday. And I was like, oh, thinking of your mom. And I was just typing really fast. I was actually going to the airport. That's why this story just reminded me. And I was typing really fast in the car, and I wasn't paying attention. And I should have been 2 different hearts, because it was my most used emojis. And instead I sent a heart, a coffin, a heart, a coffin, a heart, a coffin. Yeah. So,
That is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
stunning.
Yeah. So, we all have those texts that we wish we could literally like gobble right back up the second they, but it happens.
Oh my God. Knowing the two of you and like how thoughtful and compassionate you both
Oh yeah, I died inside. Yeah. Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
so sorry.
Yeah.
Did you repair?
Oh yeah, I love
Oh.
her. Yeah.
I feel for you. There was this other part of it that we never talked about.
Oh.
There was this thing that we never talked about in the way that you responded to me that I wonder if you clocked. And it's something. God, this is just. I feel like, why am I doing this live on air? But there was you said something to the effect of, I said, I'm so sorry. I had too many mushrooms and I was not in my best
Oh my
judgment.
God. I said, well, I don't do that or like
That I don't have friends. I don't have friends who like do the equivalent of drunk text. And I thought
So
the
shaming.
only reason I'm bringing that up was because of the shaming, and only because I thought we've moved from the feeling. Like we've moved from she's angry and I am not right. I'm not saying that I'm right, but I just felt like that was like a moment at which I felt a pivot from like the, I guess, why am I mentioning this? Because there are people listening who have said the wrong things to moms or been the mom that's received the wrong thing. And I feel like you and I have, in general, done a really good job of staying on like highest purpose.
I think that's an example of what I mentioned earlier. People give up on moms and moms give up on non-moms.
This is
And
important.
I don't have enough friends who are experimenting with magic mushrooms, which is like so healing and so beautiful, and I'm so glad that they exist. And I don't have friends who would do the equivalent of drunk texting, and I wish I did, actually. And I think that was like posturing and a protectiveness that was like, I don't, as if I've chosen it. And I didn't necessarily.
I so get it. And also,
And I didn't choose it, actually. The truth is, I'm taken out of that equation on so many occasions. And, I mean it when I say I'm delighted that with you I'm not. And I guess in that moment, I was like, how do I fucking arm up?
no, it makes every kind of sense in the world, and I've done it innumerable occasions.
If we can dispel any misconception that having a child makes you more important at all, that at all, it is not true.
No.
It is not true. And and the idea that I could text someone like that and say like, oh, my experience of life is more important than yours is like a lie.
I'm crying because I actually don't believe you. Like, I don't. like, I think as a 35-year-old now woman without children, I actually feel like my life doesn't matter as much, or won't matter as much, or that I've done it wrong somehow. And so, like, there is this sort of undercurrent in my relationship with my sisters and my friends who have children of like, please don't get up. Please, I'm so sorry. Like,
I'll come to you. You don't have to come to my apartment.
And I also want to do that, and I do think that you have so many more important demands on your time and, you know, innocents who are really depending on you. But I do think that it is actually, like, unearths this sort of, maybe it's misogynist, maybe it's just a biological, like, belief that I actually don't matter, that, like, if the pandemic had taken me, it would have been less significant than if it had taken you. You know what I mean? Like, or it affected you in some way, like, God forbid you get COVID versus I get, you know, like.
Yeah. I actually have my friend Daniella also was like, oh no, let me put my friend Daniella and Sarah, women our age who don't have children would come over with like mask on mask, and we'd sit outside and they wouldn't use my bathroom, and it would be this thing like as if my life was more important. And I'm telling you right now that it's not. That like as important as Ness and Paz are, like they were born to a mother the same way you were. Do you know what I mean? That like
so amazing the way this like, God, it's all one thing, right? This lack of serotonin really does jump in at some point when you get over the age of 20, and it's like, well, I'm not the child anymore, so I don't matter anymore.
No,
like
but
all of the importance of life has been shifted onto the children wherever this is good kin.
Yeah!
And if this isn't an advertisement for kin, nootropics.
I really want to dispel this.
A functional
Genevieve,
beverage.
I feel the same way also about feeling less important because I don't have children. It's a very valid, what you're feeling is extremely valid, and you are not alone. I imagine that people listening also feel this way. So
it's like, well, if I don't have children, then I better make such a good art.
Mm-hmm. You do.
I better make such a great, big, good art or I better
have a great company and
like
empower women and do all these things.
Right.
Because
it's just
I have
this
to
like
find value in myself somewhere.
It's just this like human doing versus human being kind of capitalist kind of value structure.
But
right?
You have frozen your eggs.
Oh,
can you?
Oh yeah, we can transition
There's
to that.
There's hope for me yet to make meaning of my life.
Guys, I just want you to know that your experience is valid and it's understandable, and I get it. And I also think the more drugs I do, the more people I make, the more I live, the more I realize like, oh my God, we have been indoctrinated into this patriarchal system that is really serving no one, not even our boys. I mean, it is so bad, guys. This is an illusion. This is an illusion that somehow making another person makes me a person. Like, you would never reduce me to that.
No.
We're friends. We're friends very much outside of me being a mother. I think maybe there's some curiosity or something to my life experience, but like it is such a misunderstanding, and it's so deep, right? Like it feels really real, but it's not. Okay, Marianne Williamson says, why'd she run for president?
Really didn't do great things for the brand.
Okay, and then I'll move on, I promise. But she did say that like at some point I realized that my purpose in life was not to make a good human out of my daughter, but to make a good human out of me, that I am my most important project. And so I'm not gonna solve world peace. But like,
they have cake pops for that.
Oh, delicious. Okay.
But it's true.
Down
I
to
mean,
the
that's
nitty-gritty.
even why it's my reaction to immediately be like, but you froze your eggs, so you're better off than I am, who's done nothing. So I have no safety or security in that arena. You know, it's just where it's so deeply ingrained in all of us. And, you know, it really is true.
Well, hold on. I really want to draw some breath to that for a quick second, because I started by saying, you know, all of civilization can't be wrong when they say that having children is one of life's greatest joys. Parentheses, for women, close paren. Why, question mark, close paren? Because for so long, that's all we had the opportunity to do.
That's
and
right.
to make meaning out of. And that is no longer the case. And that is not the case for so many millions of women who, like, are fucking fine. You know what I mean? We're fine.
Liz Gilbert, loving not being a mom.
Chelsea Handler is a great example.
Chelsea Handler.
So I froze my eggs when I was 33 because I had a little bit of money and a little bit of time, and not because I wanted to have kids. I just want to say that. All I am is is someone who has like the sort of ancestral trauma of Judaism, which means that like I am certain that the worst is going to happen and I will be prepared for it. And so I'm like, I don't want to have kids. I think I want to have a great career and like travel and go to the theater for the rest of my life and not have kids. But I might change my mind. So I'm going to take $15,000, which is roughly the amount that it costs. I think it's important we get super granular about this. It costs roughly $15K. It takes, how long does it take? Guys, it's been a couple years, so the specificity of my facts may be really fuzzy. But there is actually an enormous amount of data on the internet. People are very good about documenting, this is what week 1 was, this is what week 2 was, this is what I felt like. So that is out there. But effectively, you have to like go on the pill to sort of regulate your cycle. And then you take a lot of hormones by way of injection, which I will dispel right now are not that bad. I mean, I'm a redhead, which says that we're more sensitive to pain. So you would think that I really had a hard time with it. I did not. Here's what I will say about freezing my and your eggs. Every single person you poll will have a different experience, and so will you. And I really do think it's important to hold the idea of, actually, maybe this isn't that bad, because there's so much stuff about there like, oh my God, and it is a lot of money, it's a lot of time, and 99% of people who are freezing their eggs are doing it because they don't have a partner. So they are women doing it by themselves, shooting themselves in the stomach with needles by themselves. For men that they maybe haven't met yet who haven't had to do this, paying for it, and like just going through the emotional kind of thing of, you motherfuckers don't have to do this. And I do. I'm doing it alone, and all you have to do is come inside me, and like you get to have a baby. Like it's very, the anger, I would say the emotional ride of it for me was very profound, and I do honor that as being like separate from some synthetic hormone experience. I think it is an extremely enraging and also it like conjures up these childhood stories for me of like, I didn't dream of being 33 and not having children. When I was growing up, I thought that being a happy person meant you had a great career until you were 29, and then you married a millionaire and you had children. I really thought that, and I am a feminist. Like I am like a living, breathing fraud, because I really did think that.
You're not a fraud, just for the record.
Well,
but
I
appreciate
just didn't realize it.
the humor and the cheeky.
And in any event, I don't regret doing it, even if I never use them. I think I probably will. But
What was the time commitment?
oh, great question. Okay, so
She's on it.
I think basically you have to sync up your cycle for a couple of weeks on the birth control pill. And then I think it's, oh gosh, this is so unscientific, but I think it's maybe 2 to 3 weeks of taking the hormones, which they will modulate with very regular ultrasounds, like every 2 or 3 days, to see how your body is responding and see if you need more of something or less of something. People have very different physical reactions to these hormones, and some have said, oh my gosh, I was like, it was so much bloating and so much discomfort and whatever. I experienced zero of that until the extraction itself, which was a cakewalk. It was absolutely no problem. And then I presented as though I was 9 months pregnant for about a month. I looked fully distended, like I was going to have a baby, which again is like this very humbling experience because it invites so much attention into what is such a private process. So the whole thing, just like, I personally believe in building in a lot of support that you may not ever need to use, just because where the triggers are going to come from and what they're going to look like might be the middle of the night or 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon in broad daylight, or but mostly I just want to say to anyone thinking about going through this or in the process of going through it, I really get it. And you are very, very strong. Like the physical sensations, the childhood narratives that it challenges, the loneliness, the financial, it's a lot. And it actually might not be. Like there were just those moments where I would check in and be like, is this actually that bad? Am I getting away with this actually being kind of easy? Because it kind of is easy.
I had that experience with with labor, delivery, and recovery. I mean,
I love to hear that.
Yeah. I was just talking to another guest about a traumatic birth story, and that exists. And also, very easy labor, delivery, and recoveries also exist. And I think, like, I would read these Ina May Gaskin books, this, like, spiritual midwifery, and, she's brilliant. It's super holistic, and she calls contractions waves and doesn't refer to pain, and that's problematic. But the only, would be like birth story after birth story. And by the way, if you're ever interested in birth stories, they're very interesting. Not one is the same as the other. Like, not one. I mean, that's crazy. Do you see how many people exist?
Yeah, hormones are crazy, and they're really personal.
Bodies. Oh my God. So I really appreciate you saying that, like that, and similar to this podcast, it's not like this is a good or a bad decision. It's not gonna hurt or not hurt. It's a long process. How many weeks did the process take?
I think I started taking the birth control sometime around my birthday. And I think the extraction was at the end of May. And the only funny thing about this is that I then met my boyfriend of like the last almost 3 years, like fucking a month later or something. I think all in it was about, gosh, you guys just have to Google it. I'm so sorry. But I think it was somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks plus like all the time afterwards where I really looked pregnant.
2 months is a long time.
Yeah. But I also like went on and shot television. Like we can
She's
do
fine.
a lot. Like you, it doesn't. It might not be that bad. Is all I want to say. Might not be that bad.
I was wondering, like from a body image and embodiment perspective, how that might have landed on you.
Interesting. So Daniella is referring to the fact that I have a history of disordered eating, and
which is how we met.
Which is how we met in recovery. And I think what was so interesting was that I sort of encountered those narratives of like, am I gonna gain weight? Because like they say that you might, and I did not. But they also at the same time say you cannot eat any fucking carbs or sugar.
Why?
It has some chemical effect on your gut and bloating where there will otherwise already be a lot of gut and bloating. But it's like not, it's not like a woo-woo thing. It's like a pan experiential thing. They say don't eat carbs.
Oh my God, I could.
So you're like dieting at the same time as you might be getting, it's very intense.
Wow.
I just had to keep coming back to, if you want to have children and get pregnant one day, is weight really going to be the thing that you stops you from freezing your eggs? Because that's a sunk cost. Like that's a non-negotiable. So
I had a hard time in pregnancy with my weight, and the first time I was definitely dieting. Definitely dieting. That was a lot of smoothies. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I could understand someone being like, I have an eating disorder. I can't, I can't, or I won't. So but it's nice to know that like the trade-off for you, like just having the option, just knowing that you took care of your future self.
Yeah. And I think that narrative is that dialogue that you're describing is really important, because at the end of the day, I get to say, in my life, I got to have an eating disorder, or in my life, I got to have a baby. And I just decide. And you get to decide. And there's like really no moral value. You can have whatever you want. I really mean that. You can have whatever you want. It's your life, no judgment. If you want to have an underweight body, it sounds like there's some like subliminal like directive here. There isn't. If you want to have an underweight body, I want that for you. I want it for you. And if you want to have kids, I want that for you. But like for me, it's just sort of, I've like run the gamut of, it's run out of, it's not interesting anymore. Like I still totally want to be skinny, but like I way more want to have an amazing, rewarding life full of relationships. And that's just me. Maybe you don't want that. So like I just at those crossroads, for instance, do I want to go on a Mexican vacation with my boyfriend? No, because I don't know what the food's going to be like or when I'm going to exercise. But yeah, I totally want to go on a Mexican vacation with my boyfriend because I don't want to be the person who didn't choose that. Separate subject. I want to let the listener know 2 real quick things that I learned from you. And also just to draw a full circle on the fact that I was a bad friend. I did text you about.
No, you weren't a bad friend.
Okay.
Could we really just say you weren't a bad friend?
I had a blind spot, but I want to.
I have blind spots, as we've discussed.
I'm about to congratulate myself. Guys, don't worry. I'm about to congratulate myself. My proudest moment of being a friend to you and to Ness was the moment that I don't know where this came from, maybe the same place as my blind spot, when I turned to you and I said, is there anything about the way I'm interacting with your child that you'd like me to change?
This was genius, actually. I mean, she's so astute, and also this is what's really interesting about you, in the same way that you're like, I can choose the underweight body. I've done that before. Or I can choose some discomfort and some joy and connection. And I'd like you have this real attunement to what the choices are and how I can. It's part of what makes you a brilliant actress, like the awareness. And you were like, I can just like do this brilliant hanging out with Ness, because it's a whole vibe. We have pictures. One day when I'm Rachel Ray, we'll just like do pictures of you.
Oh my God, Rachel Ray is such a great vision to hold for yourself.
Much food, so much cheese.
One thing I learned from Daniella in that moment was I was learning from the way that my family interacts with the children that exist in my family, which is to teach all the time. And so I was asking Ness leading questions that were sort of like testing his knowledge and like, from my point of view, like interesting him or conversing with him or helping him to grow. But Daniella reflected, she was like, I actually don't want that for him because the world tests him enough. So it would be great if you just didn't test him. And I don't remember what it was. It was something like, oh my gosh, how many, fingers do you have on your hand or something? And it was something benign like that. I don't know, but it was like, oh, what a great, like, this doesn't need to be a space where he has to practice proving his intellect or something like that, And then the other thing that I learned from you, and I'm sure you've talked about Rye on
No,
here?
I
Oh,
haven't.
So I don't know what rye is, but I always cite it when I talk to my parent friends, the rye parenting technique, because Daniella talks about it and I think she's a perfect parent. The one thing I know about when people are like, oh, what is the rye parenting technique? All I say is you're supposed to tell your child before you're about to pick them up.
Yeah, that's right. It's about consent, right?
It's about consent.
Right. Like, well, I was just reminded of like the idea of Ness proving his intellect, which by the way, I have like so engaged in. That is not fair to little boys, you know, like it's in the same way that like we like, you know, put on dresses on our little girls and then like she'll tell them how pretty they are and how do you feel pretty? It's like, bleh! But Rye does say like, what before you pick them up, you tell them you're going to pick them up. It's about consent, you know. It's like kind of genius. This woman Magda Gerber developed this sort of technique right after World War II in Hungary, and what she was really dissecting was bodily consent and, you know, the way we treat children and people in general as objects.
I have you can answer this for me off the pod if it's better. I'm really wondering, like, does Dan read the books and do it the way you want him to do it?
No.
Because I'm having stress right now thinking, like, Dave and I are never going to agree about this, and that's going to be a huge problem.
Here's the thing about Dan, though. I would get very angry with him early on, and I look back and I think, oh, that might have been anxiety. That might have been, because my anxiety alchemizes into anger real quick. Because I think, oh, you've made me feel this uncomfortable and I need it to be squashed.
I envy that so much because at least your anxiety goes outward where mine goes in and like destroys my fucking whole adrenal system.
I'm so sorry. Because the anger goes, right. Okay, but it's not good. It's not good. Let's just say that it's not good. Okay. But the thing about Dan is that if the more I show him or the Janet Lansbury or whatever podcast is playing in the background or whatever, if he understands, like, don't just grab their bodies and pick them up, he won't do it. He just won't do it. He doesn't have trauma. Like he doesn't have like in the way that I do, you know, that impedes him from just doing the right thing. And I think once you understand that if you're gonna take a booger out of someone's nose, like, wouldn't it be weird if I just touched your face right now without your, even if not consent, but like your acknowledge? If I just like took a booger out of your face? Oh, great. Okay, good. So then there you go.
No, but
noted. So I think once you like practice it enough times, and the good news is about a newborn is you get to say like, I'm going to change your diaper now and I'm going to wipe your butt. Do you feel how the temperature of this water might be a little cool? Oh, wow. Thank you so much for helping me with that. You start to talk to them and it's practice for you in getting present and it's practice for them in language development and body autonomy. It's also practice for the people around you. This is how you treat my child. You know, people will notice
that
pretty...
must be agony.
It was agony with Ness, but it's not with Paz. And I do think it was agony because I was in fight or flight. I think I was in agony already. But with Paz, it was so much more clear. Like, this is how I treat my children. And so this is a non-confrontational way of teaching you how to treat my children.
That must be so distressing, though, because the rest of the world can be like, there's not actually a problem here if I just pick up your child without you asking. You're just having anxiety. And you're like, I am having anxiety, but I'm also right. So, like, I feel fucking even angrier at you because, yes, you get the benefit of, like, not having anxiety and of this not actually maybe being a problem and maybe not impacting their mental health for the rest of their lives. But it doesn't mean I'm wrong.
That's right. You know, so okay, I really appreciate that reflection because it is anxiety producing and it's also an opportunity. I'm learning more and more. It's an opportunity to root down and like, this is really important to me. And these are the things that matter to me. And I matter to me. My feelings matter to me. And if the way you're speaking to my child or touching my child or, you know, if that bothers me, then that's a hard line. That took me a really long time. And still, like, I just had a weird interaction with a babysitter. I didn't trust her. I didn't want to leave her alone with my kids. And somehow when she, you know, texted me at 2 a.m., sorry, I can't come in. I said, okay, so I'm sorry, I don't think this is going to work out. She gave me all the reasons why I was terrible. And I said, oh, wow, I knew this was seething underneath. I have to keep listening to myself. And more I realized, like, you know, going back to the conversation about importance, I'm the one important in that situation. This is self-care for me, that I say, the way we do it is, you know, a new babysitter came in and Ness was saying, like, Ness got upset and she goes, don't be upset. And I said, oh, Nessie, do you want to tell Marcella the rules in our home? In our home, you can feel however you want or need to feel. You just can't hurt anybody. That was not for Ness. That was for me, because I matter.
I love you so much.
I love you so much. Like, so much.
I like have to have you in my life.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm so lucky, guys. I'm so lucky. I get a front row seat to this every day.
Cheers.
Cheers. Black tourmaline?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, like,
And is this salt?
It is.
Oh my God. I don't even know anything about crystals, but I play one on TV.
Yeah. New Amsterdam. Okay. New Amsterdam.
Yes,
Yeah.
all the things.
Oh, okay. So, guys, watch The After Party. It's coming out on Apple Plus on January 28th. I'm on this season of New Amsterdam. Why? Because they wrote a character that is the head of holistic medicine it's on NBC. It's a medical drama, and this head of holistic medicine comes in with her crystals and her acupuncture needles, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm about to play Gwyneth on TV. So that's NBC. That season's on right now. And what else?
Are you having fun with that, by the way?
Fuck yes. I literally float into this well-oiled machine that's on its 4th season. It's going great. Huge hit show. They know what they're doing. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I show up with my little cute ideas about crystals. I plop them down. I pick up my money and I go home. And sometimes that's being an actor.
Oh my God, it's the best. I'm going to rewind back to your ASMR YouTube channel is genius and brilliant.
If you are a mom with a new baby and you want someone whispering to you about things that are, I don't know, for adults that keep you up at night, then I'm on YouTube, ASMR with Genevieve Angelson. I'm on Instagram at Genevieve Angelson, and I'm on Twitter at Genevieve Angel.
Thanks for listening to the Mom Curious podcast. I've been your host, Daniella Rabani. Special thanks to executive producer Laura Lucetti. For more episodes, make sure to follow Mom Curious, available on all podcast platforms.